I'm an engineer. Leroy was an engineer. He's an engineer.
And Tracy was the engineer.
Tracy was the engineer. Wow. I'm like, you know what? I need somebody tatted up. I'm not trying to do the nerd again the second time around, right?
It's like maybe this life was it. Maybe I'm supposed to start new,
right? I'm like, can I get something different? Yeah. But I guess I have a type, Here we go. Well, this is what's best for me.
What comes down to it is the intellectual level, right? And the person on the inside. It's like you can look however, but the fun and all that will play out if it's not real.
I was looking for a bad boy. Like, he didn't have to be bad, but he needed to look bad.
Right. Well, we did that backwards. I was a bad boy for quite a long time. Then I met the nerd.
Welcome to Couples Unfiltered. I'm Lionel, a retired Marine drill instructor and master sergeant, and a widower learning to navigate life after loss.
And I'm Natalie, a retired nurse, also widowed, and now together we're navigating grief, healing, midlife changes, family dynamics, and everything in between.
Join us as we have real, unfiltered conversations about love, loss, and relationships.
We'll share stories, talk to others about their journeys, and drop a few cheat codes for making relationships work.
Listen, it's raw, it's real, and it's unfiltered.
Let's get started.
Welcome to today's episode. We have a truly inspiring couple joining us today, Eric and Iris, who known firsthand the weight of loss and the resilience it takes to heal. Both widowed, after many years of marriage, their journey through grief has shaped them into the people that they are today. But it is not just about what they've lost, but what they found. Eric and Iris, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I wanted to add that not only is your story very similar to ours, but you all have some very specific details in your story that makes it so unique in that both of your spouses were the age of 47 when
49.
they passed. 49.
Mm-hmm.
40.
Both 49. They both passed of cancer.
Correct.
And they passed the same month, 2 days apart.
Correct.
Yes.
In the same year.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you guys did not know each other. You did not find each other in grief counseling. But you did have a mutual friend who attended 2 funerals in the same week.
Yes.
And that's kind of where the time schedule kind of started, right? The little coincidences that started. But yeah, so we met you guys, through, Lionel's W-2 job. Networking.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. I was at work and Eric came in with some other folks and with my boss, the director of Project Next, introducing what it is that we do. And you came into our Future Center and immediately I'm always perked up. So, we talk about the demographics here in San Diego. So when I see somebody come in and who walk in with a certain presence as well, I'm like, who is that? I need to find out who this person is. And we ended up talking about kind of our shared, we're part of a similar fraternity of loss. And you share some things with me. I won't steal that away from you. I want you to tell that story. But it was great to meet you. And I came home and I told Natalie, I was like, babe, we got to talk to this guy.
Yeah, he was so excited.
When I told Iris, there's that same thing when I
Yeah, he was calling me before he even got home. He's like, we got to talk about what happened today. And I met somebody and the story is crazy. You're never going to believe this. Because it is very crazy. I mean, think about it. Like,
It's a unique club.
we meet people all the time that I meet women who've lost their husbands, different age groups. He meets men who've lost their spouses, but we've never met a couple who both lost their spouses that are together. Right. I know they're out there, but what are the chances? What are the chances?
Yeah. So I was excited when we reached out and you said, yes, we would love to sit down and talk. And I mean, our normal routine, have you guys come over. so impressed.
Thank you.
First and foremost, you know, I talk about growing up watching television, and I remember the Cosby Show, and I remember the eclectic group of people that they had coming to their house. But what I remember the most were these smart people that came into their home, and you two are probably two of the most smartest people that we've ever had grace our door. So thank you for that.
I'm honored.
Thank you. Yes.
Appreciate that.
No, absolutely.
And you got the credentials to prove
Yes,
it.
absolutely.
All it makes me think not too many people have come to visit me.
That is not the
One or the other.
case.
I don't know which one it is.
Right.
We have amazingly smart people on our podcast, and we are so smart that we know those people are going to be smart. No, but yeah, you guys are in a little class of your own here. We call that urbane bronze.
Urbane bronze.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
That's our term for
that's
black excellence.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it has a long story about paint we were picking in our speakeasy room, and we didn't want just a regular black color. We needed a special black, and we found that special black, and it was called urbane bronze. So that's our little reference to black excellence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I can ramble on about this, but let's get started. So, Iris, won't you take us back? Tell us briefly about how you grew up and some of the dynamics that led you to where you are today.
Okay. Well, I am a Southern girl. Grew up in Mobile, Alabama. Was born in Boston, Massachusetts. When I was very young, me and my two sisters moved back to Mobile to live with my grandparents because my parents were separated at the time. And my grandparents, they were just fabulous. Their relationship was great. They loved on us. They took us to church. So, you know, they're the reason why I love the Lord today, because of them. And then when I was in about the third or fourth grade, I can't remember which one, my parents decided to reunite, come back together. And so we went to live with them, right? And their marriage was a bit challenging, I will say. It was a bit challenging, but what that did for me, it gave me, I would say, a well-rounded view of marriage, because I saw my grandparents who never fought. You know, my granddad would call my grandmother Miss Thomas. Miss Thomas, what you want me to do? Miss Thomas, you know. What you say, Miss Thomas? And she would call him Ira. But, you know, I grew up around that, and then I grew up with my parents who, you know, their relationship was a bit rocky, but at the same time, they were present parents. Although my dad did work, he drove trucks, and he drove for Greyhound and, you know, Trailways, and, you know, so he was a professional driver. So he was not at home a lot. So I would say I knew that marriage wouldn't be easy, but I knew that there would be, it would be what you made it to be. Mm-hmm. So that's what, you know, you had choices. And so that's what I walked away from my childhood and viewing, you know, kind of both sides of marriage.
Yeah, that's a good example to have both sides, because it makes you curious and it makes you pay attention to the differences, you know, and you judge for yourself that the personalities play a huge role in those marriages. You get to see that firsthand.
Absolutely. I can go a little further. So I graduated from the University of Alabama, majored in engineering and electrical engineering, and my first job was with Monsanto Company in Huntsville, Alabama, or Decatur, Alabama, right outside of Huntsville, and eventually moved to Houston, and that's where I met Leroy, my first husband. We worked together. In fact, we were like cat a corner our offices, making Google eyes at each other. So that was 1995. We got married in 97, and after we moved to Indianapolis, then went to grad school full time, ended up in Charlotte. That's where my kids were born, Noah and Kai. And we were there for 9 years in Charlotte. And then my husband decided he wanted to be an entrepreneur. So he left his 6-figure banking job. And so even in that, we had a great marriage, great partners. But, you know, when you leave a 6-figure banking job and I'm a stay-at-home mom, then guess what? You learn how to navigate those challenges,
That's right.
So there are some challenges there. And we survived it. We really did. And then he said, you know what? I'm an entrepreneur, but I need to be an entrepreneur with a paycheck. So he got a job with Dell Computers, and that's when we moved to Austin.
Oh.
And so that was 2009. And then in 2013, he was diagnosed with a glioblastoma, multiforme, stage 4, which is brain cancer. And 13 months later, he passed away.
Wow.
So quick.
And so, yeah, it was very quick, very aggressive type of cancer. And, you know, so there I was there with 2 sons, 6th and 8th grade, wondering why God would leave me, the mom, and not the dad to raise 2 black sons, right? And so, you know, here I am, and I just pray, you know, Lord, you're going to have to help me do this. You have to help me do this. And so that's kind of what brought me to this point, or to this point. So.
Oh, nice. Well, Eric, how about you?
You notice how she started out saying she was a Southern girl. That's intentional. Because, see, I'm straight country. And there's a difference. Well, I'm a straight country boy from Blytheville, Arkansas.
Oh.
Little small city, 15,000 people. Same guys who I grew up with from kindergarten. I graduated with from high school. But my mom and dad, my dad, Air Force, he retired Air Force in Blytheville, Arkansas. My mom was from the area, grew up. She was a school teacher. And 4 boys. I'm the youngest of 4. Born and raised in the church. Mom played the piano. Dad was a trustee, did the finances for the church. And the church was our foundation because all of our friends, pretty much, we all went to the same church. And either they were all couples, their parents, or single moms, but a lot of couples. And I'm thinking about this is 40, 50 years ago, and I think there's still one couple, both mom and dad, still together today. One of my best friend's parents. So that's the foundation I had, because I can't even tell you I even knew anybody that got divorced during that time. Now we're talking about in the 60s and 70s, but still, that's just foundation. God, family, friends, community, very important. Graduated from high school and went to college at Prairie View A&M University. Prairie View had kicked off this Benjamin Banneker Honors College, and they were bringing top black kids from all around the country into Prairie View, and they recruited me. Now, come to find out that everybody else in the class were like valedictorians or salutatorians, but not me. Not me. But that's okay. I held my own. But Tracy, my first wife, was valedictorian of her school. She's from St. Louis. And so all of us were in the same dorm, and we all took classes together. There was about 50 of us. And that became our core group. And so all of us were friends all the way through college. Engineers and biology majors, so engineers and doctors.
Wow.
And still friends with all of them today. Here's the good part. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and tell you that all of her friends love this woman and have become her friend.
That's such a blessing.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So Tracy and I we started dating after the first semester. And we dated 6 years, all the way through undergrad and grad. And because we were the first couple, we were that foundation couple. And everybody kind of looked up to us. We were the first ones to get married. Got married. Well, I went up to school, Michigan State. Tracy went to work for Dow Chemical. I finished school, came back. I knew I could not stand cold weather, so I couldn't stay in Michigan. So I came back to Texas, where she was working at Dow Chemical. We got married, and we stayed in Houston. I worked for AT&T, and she was working for Dow. We tried to start our family, but we had difficulty having kids. It took us about 7 years and about 3 miscarriages before we had kids. Got to the point where after the third one, we were like, if God don't mean, for us to have kids, we're good with that. And so we stopped trying. And then shortly after, she got pregnant.
Isn't that the case?
Yeah, I took that as my
often?
first sign of God telling me, son, you are not in control.
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
All right. So that was God's message to me, that he's in control, not us. And after that, we got pregnant 2 years later with the second child and didn't have any complications. The first child, she was on bed rest for like 5 months. That's when you find out who your real friends are. 'Cause,
let me tell
I'm
you.
not a cook. And I had people bringing food by the house every day.
Been there.
So, total blessing. So Tracy and I have married for 24 years after being dating for 6 years, so 30 years altogether. And in 2012, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And she lived for 2 years. And she died December 23rd, one day after our 24th wedding anniversary of pancreatic cancer.
Did she ever discuss with you holding on till that date, or did she not, comprehend
so
that date?
Tracy was different because she refused, and she had me believing that she was going to be okay.
Okay.
That this was God using her to show that he can do miracles. And so I was shocked, devastated when she passed, because I'm like, this wasn't supposed to happen. And so we never talked about death. She never talked about me moving out, never talked about any of that, because she was not happy. She wouldn't let anybody come to the house feeling sorry for her, or just, you have to be upbeat, positive 100% of the time, and have confident faith that she's going to be okay.
Yeah. So that kind of plays into my next question, as far as after she passed, what was your mindset like? Outside of the grieving and the shock, about your future.
Devastated.
Like, what was, you have two boys.
No, boy and a girl.
I'm sorry, boy and a girl.
My daughter was 10 and my son was 12.
So what was your path moving forward? Were you raising them by yourself?
Nope. So my mom would come and visit a couple months at a time, and about after that second year, she moved in. So that was great, because my dad passed away same year my son was born, so he never got to see his grandson. But mom came and stayed with me about after 2 years of just coming back and forth. The brothers, I have a brother living in Virginia and one brother in Arkansas and myself, and she would just rotate between the three of us. But eventually she just slowly moved her stuff in, and I gave her my master bedroom. I moved upstairs with the kids.
Okay.
But that was a big help. But I was devastated myself, because I was just hurt. One, that we believe, in my mind, we did everything we were supposed to do, and I'm not the one who's supposed to be sitting here raising a son and daughter.
Yeah.
I think she made a much better parent than me. So let's just say I had a detour from a guy who was born in the church, and God has been in my life from day one. At that point, I made a detour. I was mad, upset, and I just couldn't understand how God could do that to me.
Right.
And so I just say I spent 6 years in the wilderness.
That's such a hard thing to navigate through. You get married, and you feel like this is forever.
True.
Nothing's going to change this. And we fail to realize that life is still waiting there. Once we walk away from that altar, life is still sitting there waiting for us. The trials, the tribulations, the hard times, it's all there. But we get blinded by the life that we're living. We get blinded by the love.
Right?
Everything's going great. Yeah. And then when something like that happens, it changes everything.
Yeah, it makes you second guess everything you've ever already experienced, because the reality of, we always say, I've only experienced a parent loss. I've only experienced, distant and extended family loss, and then my spouse. But if I have to line all the people up in my life, my spouse knew me best, more than my parents, more than my children, even more than my best friend, because my spouse saw me in every character, every personality, every up, every down, how I responded, watched me grow up, was with him from 17. So I was 43 when he passed, and to watch me change And then that person suddenly is no longer that mirror for you. And then you look in the mirror alone and you're like, who am I? What do I want to do with my life? What do I want? What do I even like? I don't know. Without this person, I don't really know how to define any of that stuff. Right. And so people can experience grief, but you also have to live. So you have to figure out how to do that and to make those choices to separate yourself from what you've known, because obviously that served you for a little while, but something changed. So I understand that you get mad at God. You get mad at the process. You start to just think selfishly, kind of like, I'm going to just live for me because I don't know how much time I have left. And what does life even mean if it's just going to be gone that quick? You know, what is my definition of living? So you start doing crazy stuff sometimes, making bad choices, which is why they say don't make any choices for the first year, right? And that is so true. Boy, I stuck to that as much as I could, but there were a few choices I made that I was like, 6 months in, I should have waited 6 more months. But yeah, I had plans on being wild and crazy, but I never actually got there. He came a little sooner than I was expecting.
Good for you. Well, good for you.
So listen about wild and crazy. So I'm an engineer. Leroy was an engineer. He's an engineer.
And Tracy was the engineer.
Tracy was the engineer. Wow. I'm like, you know what? I need somebody tatted up. You know, I'm not trying to do the nerd again the second time around, right?
It's like, maybe this life was it. Maybe I'm supposed to start new,
right? You know, I'm like, can I get something different? But I guess I have a type, you know. There you go. Well, this is what's best for me. Right?
What comes down to it is the intellectual level, right? And the person on the inside. It's like you can look however, but the fun and all that will play out if it's not real.
I was looking for a bad boy. Like, he didn't have to be bad, but he needed to look bad.
Right. Well, we did that backwards. I was a bad boy for quite a long time. Then I met the nerd.
Yeah.
So what was your first, second year like?
Well, when did you feel like, okay, it's time for me to start making changes? I've been dad. I'm looking into the situation to where you got to put on the strong face for the children because they're still hurting. So when did you get to the point where it's like, okay, I need to put my mask on and I want to get back out. I want to date again. I want to find some sense of who I am. When did you get to that point to where it's okay for me to get out there?
It wasn't a point of it's okay for me to get out there. For me, it was more so I don't know how to do this by myself. I don't know how to be alone. I mean, from the time I was 18 years old to the 48, so that's 30 years of being with someone. I didn't know how to be by myself. So I ended up dating someone 4 months after my wife passed. And I think I just need that companionship.
Yeah. And that's common for men. I understand they're quicker to need that companionship.
And it was clear, I'll say 6 months to a year, that I wasn't supposed to be with that person, but I stuck around for 4.5 years just because of the companionship and kind of bad girl side, I guess you could say. She was 10 years younger than me.
That's quite a few
you
years.
You wanted a city girl, you wanted 50 Cent.
Wow.
Yes.
50 Cent.
You know.
That's funny when she starts talking about tattoos. I was like, I know you got all kinds of people pictured in your mind right now.
With tattoos?
When she mentioned tattoos, like I was thinking you were thinking of who you were thinking about, like, because his brain, you know.
Well, in my head, to be honest, Shamar Moore was my husband in my head.
Okay.
During that time.
He still is in her head. We watch SWAT now every other night just so that she can see him. But I'm okay with it. I'm not judging.
Listen, I know me. There's certain movies we will not watch. If she says something, he looks like... we're not watching that no more.
He will never break character with that. Like, he'll never tell me that he thinks somebody's really beautiful, you know, because he just doesn't, like, he's just really great with that. But I'll be like,
I'm
knows.
I'm gonna say you are the fantasy. So I got what I wanted.
That was good. That was good. That was real good.
Good saying.
He's like, on to the next conversation. Oh my goodness. So you had 4 years of dating, and how about you?
So I was a little different. So can I go back just a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
So my experience with losing Leroy was a little different just because in that decade that I lost him, I had already lost about 12 people.
12.
Wow.
About 12. So, and I'm talking a dad, a grandmother, a husband, had miscarried a baby, favorite uncle, favorite aunt, a cousin, a best friend, and a job. I had lost a job. So I had, and I could go on and on. I had quite a bit of loss. And so when Leroy passed, or when he got sick, I that phone call is just, I never forget the day when they called and told us that he had brain cancer.
They called, huh?
Because we had gone to get the MRI, and when we walked out of the MRI, Leroy said something's wrong. And I said, why do you think that? He said, because they did the entire MRI, and then they called the doctor and they did it again with contrast dye. And he said something's wrong. And I said, oh no, they probably just saw something. They just want to be sure. I'm sure it's fine. We were at home 10 minutes, and the doctor was calling us and said they saw cancer, brain cancer. What does that mean? It's a glioblastoma, and you need to go into surgery immediately. But this was the day before Thanksgiving. And the doctor was out of town, the oncologist, the oncology surgeon was out of town. And, they said it's a high reoccurrence rate and very aggressive. So we had to sit on that for the entire Thanksgiving weekend before we could get into the oncologist and find out what that means. So we went through that, like I said, 13 months of him being sick. And he went right into emergency brain surgery, and then after that, chemo and radiation. What they don't tell you about radiation is, especially of the brain, so his was near his hippocampus, which houses your short-term memory. And they said, well, it should be fine. We can kind of target where the radiation goes, but we can't guarantee you that. What they should have said was, say everything you need to say before he starts radiation. Because what happened, they radiated his brain and it hit his hippocampus. So then now his short-term memory was gone. And talking to him was like having the same conversation over and over again. Thankfully, though, Leroy and I, for some strange reason, at least once a year, we would always talk about if something happened to either one of us, what do we want the other spouse to do? Number one, we wanted the other spouse to take care of our parents. I mean, we had a pact on that. Do not abandon my parents, right? Number two, move on with your life, get remarried, whatever you see fit to do. And so... And he wanted to be buried. I wanted to be cremated. So, and he was like, do not cremate me. And I'm like, do not bury me. So, and where we wanted that to be. And so we talked about that, which is strange, right?
No.
At least once a year.
I feel like it's
good.
not strange.
No. It's the business of marriage.
Yeah.
You have to, you should be talking about certain things like that.
I think it's strange when people don't talk about that, especially the part about moving on, because that is the stuff that has made it not easier, but I can take a deep breath knowing that he's gonna be happy that I made the choice I made, and that someone is taking care of me and putting themselves in their space and making him proud. If you don't have that conversation, then you move on and you feel guilt or whatever, you know, and
Right.
it's so, that's strange to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true because I did not feel guilty after he passed. And I, for about a year and a half, I waited and God built me, and I know this. I am a connector, and I love people, and I am built for connection. Like, I am not built to be alone, period. I know that about myself. And I'm like, Lord, okay, here I am. Are you gonna bring somebody?
Yeah, when's this happening?
And I don't think I'm 40. At that time, I was 40. Let's see, when he passed, I was 46. So I was almost 48. 48. I'm 48 years old. That's young, right? My kids will soon be out of the house. I don't want to live the rest of this life by myself, and so I called our friend Kevin. So. That's our mutual friend.
That's your friend that was at
Introduced
two
us
funerals
at
in
2
one
funerals.
week. Yeah.
Yes, Kevin. We love Kevin.
Shout out to Kevin.
Shout out to Kevin. Kevin is the reason why Leroy and I moved to Austin.
Okay.
Because we're friends. Each family, we're friends with his family, so on and so forth. But when Leroy was looking for a job, he called Kevin and said, "Hey, I need a job. I need to go back into the workforce." Kevin said, "Send me your resume." I think that next week Leroy had an interview.
Oh wow.
And then he ended up getting a job at Dell in Austin. He and Kevin knew each other in Houston though. So, but they were in Austin. And let me just tell you something else about Kevin. I got to give him a shout out. Okay. So he introduced us. Just last week, my son got a job at Dell.
Oh wow.
Same company. He helped my son get a job at Dell. The same company he helped my husband get a job.
Nice.
And
That's
then, of course,
crazy.
he brought
Yeah,
her to me.
that's full circle.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure for Kevin too.
Nah.
Full circle.
Yeah.
So, and I told him, I said, I just appreciate your obedience and your assignment.
Mm-hmm.
And that you're a man that will do what you say you will do. Because he told Leroy, yeah, man, I'll help you. How many times have you heard people say that when you're looking for a job? I'll help you. You never hear from them. But he actually walked his resume to the hiring manager and said, "Look, this is my friend. We need to hire him." Same thing with my son. "Look, do you remember Leroy Savage? This is his son. And I know him. We need to hire him."
That's
So
beautiful.
anyway, back to Kevin. Went to 2 funerals. Year and a half later, called Kevin. "Hey, Kevin, if you know of anybody, you knew Leroy very well. You know what I'm looking for. If you know of anybody, let me know." He said, "You know what? I have just been waiting on you to call me. I have two people that I want to introduce you to." And so he said, my boy, Eric, and then another guy that was in the boule with him. So he gave Eric my number. And he called me. I don't know if do you all want me to go into this story?
Yeah, sure. We shouting out Kevin right now.
So he called me, and I was like, so Kevin said, "I think he's dating somebody, but I don't think it's serious." I said, "Okay." So when he called me, I said, well, we chit-chatted and, talked about our spouses and the kids and how they're doing and all of that. And then finally I said, "Well, tell me about this person you're dating." And he said, "Well, we've been dating," I guess at that point, it may have been
About
a year. Yeah, about a year. "And I love her." And I was like, why are you calling me? I was very blunt.
And I said, because Kevin told me to. And if Kevin said, I need to call you and meet you, then that's what I'm doing.
Wow.
Our story, you got 2 widower with 2 kids, 10, 11, 12, 13, going through this journey. If nothing else, we just supposed to know each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was never my intent to date. It was more so you all just need to be there to support each other because you got a similar story.
Nobody knows that story like someone that's going through it.
It's
like
a
you.
unique club.
Yeah, that was our connection. Just not, being friends. We weren't looking at being with each other. It was just being friends.
Yeah, just someone to understand that you didn't have to like pretend or make them not feel bad. It's like you just have that same conversation back and forth, and it's unlike any connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, just also being able to talk about things like moving on without feeling guilty. Because if you talk about that with people that knew your spouse, they may feel some type of way. You moving on already?
Yes. Or family.
Right? Or family already? Or, so it was...
Which is why no one liked the person I dated, because, I moved on a little too quick.
Well, yeah, it's too quick for them.
Yeah.
It's
They
not
don't
too
understand.
quick for you. It's too quick for them.
Right.
But number 2, you.
So... But where did I live out? So we started talking, and we just became, good friends for like 5 years. And we were just our 2-person support group. And it was, it maybe once a quarter we would talk. We would check in.
Just on the phone?
Just on the phone. We had never met.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Never met each other until...
Kevin's wife 50th birthday party.
So you guys were both in Austin.
Nope.
No.
I was in Houston. She was in
Oh, okay.
Austin.
So there was some distance that kept you from
And
actually.
she
2 hours.
was dating the second guy.
guy.
That's number 2.
Okay.
Oh, that's what you said.
Yeah.
So
number
you
2.
went with
Okay.
all of Kevin's recommendations.
All of Kevin's recommendation and dated him for 2 years.
Oh, wow. We need to meet Kevin.
Yes.
Kevin-
Yes, you all need to do a show with Kevin.
Kevin got some magic.
Yes. So
Crystal ball.
Exactly, right? Right. I'm like, I need to be in your prayer closet because God is really directing you, right? So yeah, I dated him the guy for 2 years, and we just both wanted different things. He said, maybe I want to be married again, that dangling carrot, and but I knew I wanted to be married again. I knew I didn't want to be a long-term girlfriend. That is not in my DNA, nor my goals, or purpose in the earth.
Or time that you got left.
Exactly. So I ended it. I ended it because it wasn't going anywhere, or it wasn't going anywhere fast enough for me.
Gotcha,
And after 2 years, I'm like, I know who I am. I know my worth. I know I am. Anybody would be delighted to have me as a wife. Like,
That's so amazing.
well, one
Congrats
of my friends,
to you.
yeah, one of my friends told me. She said, "You know what? I think you have the gift of being a wife. You're just wife material. You know how to be a wife." So I guess I do. But anyway, so then after I broke up with him. That was in 2019. He broke up with
December
the person he was
in
dating.
2019. So yours February, mine December, and we started talking more on the phone. Still hadn't only seen each other one time at that time.
Yeah,
But we just talked on the phone. Probably went to more once a month now.
Okay.
And then as time progressed, probably down to once a week. But we would stay on the phone for hours at a time.
So 19, you're going into COVID.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and then you guys are talking on the phone, and maybe it's getting a little bit more. Or how does that
No,
does
we
the
just
conversation
friends.
changes?
No.
Yeah.
No.
But is it getting more comfortable?
You see, look at
Very.
me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I
But
see
we
you're
would
starting
talk
to
for
feel.
hours at a time. To me, it was just great to have a friend that
Yeah.
you could talk to about
So he's
anything.
clueless, and you're
100
starting to catch
no,
feelings.
No guards.
Got it.
Don't have to be cautious about what you're saying. Just free.
Or talk about our spouses.
Yeah, we
which
can talk
is
about
very
Tracy
important.
and Leroy
Very
all
important.
day.
That is one of the things we talk about that people, you never really have conversations with people who haven't lost people
Right.
and say, listen, if your current partner does not allow you to conversate about your previous relationship, regardless of how that ended, you're grieving that relationship because you gave yourself fully to someone. And you have to be able to have those conversations with your current spouse or partner. And it's something that none of us really think of except the people who actually lost the person.
Right, exactly.
Divorce, I need to be able to talk to my partner now about my past relationships because they affected who I am. They made me who I am. It's very important, and only we get to realize that.
Yeah,
because,
people still to this day they don't they don't fully understand when the birthday comes up,
Yeah. Anniversary.
anniversary comes up. There's times when we'll post because there's other people that were connected to our people.
Yeah, I'm still gonna talk about being, in love with he was my soulmate.
Yeah.
I lost my soulmate, and people are like calling him, "Are you okay?" She's posting about.
I saw a post that Natalie. I said, "Do you realize that Natalie also does a post for my wife?" I don't do social media like that. She will do a post for Greg. She'll do a post for Nick, and it's in honor of them. Those our people. They live in our home. They're in our home
still in our
with
home.
us.
Like literally.
So it's like, what do you?
Cremation.
This is our life.
Yeah.
But people don't understand.
That's a gift. That is a special
It is
gift.
a
Yeah.
gift. It is absolutely.
Because you can't be
a gift.
jealous of the person who
But
loved
she
you, the
seemed
person
like
you
to be
loved.
the only one I could have that conversation
Right,
with.
Oh,
right.
absolutely.
Because
And
everybody
I
else
was
is
talking to plenty of people, but only could have certain conversations with
Yeah.
Iris, like no guards.
And those are not your people. Those are not your people. Because, think about if you would have gone into those relationships any further, you would have just had to shut it down.
And that's what was attempted by others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's emotionally immature.
Yes. Yeah.
People, unfortunately, but they're just not ready yet.
No,
and
not at
obviously you two took quite a while to get ready for each other.
Right.
Because that was almost a 5-year
5 years.
gap of friendship or space of just friendship.
Correct.
And then you guys, what is the story behind when you recognize that this is not what it looks like
that light
anymore?
bulb came on.
Yeah.
For him, the light bulb came on for him. It was already on for him. So you want me to
Well,
tell her? Go ahead.
so at the time, Iris, once again, single mom, raising 2 boys, very active in sports, very active with the AKAs, very active with the Links, and very active in her church. So
and
this
I,
one
by myself too.
yeah.
He had help.
Yeah,
I didn't have
my
help.
mom. So yeah, I would take trips once a month, going somewhere, just getting away. Cause kids had stayed at home with mom.
Once a month.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Once a month, I was out somewhere on somebody's beach chilling. Yes, ma'am.
The benefits of being a man.
Right?
I'm doing that next time. I always say that.
Totally different experiences.
I'm
right?
coming
Yes,
back as a man.
life was good, but life is still good. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
No, I was enjoying, but I was like, Iris, you need to get away. She was literally just way too busy, way over her
Still
head,
way
just
too
stressed, and she
Yeah.
needed a break. And I'm like, you need to get away for just a weekend. Just take a 3-4 day weekend, go somewhere by yourself, chill, relax. And she had said,
I was like, okay, so you gonna go with me? And he was like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
okay, so but the precept to that one is the fact that I had watched the movie in October of 2020, The Shack.
Brilliant movie.
And that was the movie that brought me back to God.
Yep.
So I had made a pledge to God that I cut off all women. I said no more relationships, no more intimacy. It's just going to be me and God and my kids, my mom. I'm good. And that was in November of 2020. So I told everybody, I'm done. So I didn't want anybody to
told me
get
to.
any misconceptions or misunderstandings. So understand, I'm not doing what I used to do for
So
the 6
trip-
years that I was in the wilderness.
The wilderness. So trip taking is not on your radar with a woman
Correct.
because it might turn into something.
Correct.
And then you
Correct.
were smart enough to say, I don't
Correct.
want to do that to her.
Correct.
Okay. And she's like a vulnerable widow and all the things. Okay. But you went anyway.
He went
We
anyway.
had some
but
ground
he-
rules.
Okay.
Yeah, the ground rules
Lay 'em
are we
out.
had to have separate rooms, separate bathrooms, separate everything.
Okay.
So I just went ahead and booked the flight to South Padre, and I sent it to him. I said, hey, here's when I'm going. If you're still available, let me know. About an hour later, he sent me back an Airbnb that had 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and everything. And he said, I booked my flight. So we went. It was March 4th, I guess, March 4th. And we arrived. And so this is the funny part, right? Let me back up.
Wait,
I gotta back up.
2020. March 4th?
2021.
This is
2021. Okay.
March 4th, 2021. So let me back up. So we were talking all the time, like he said, hours on the phone.
Yeah.
And so I told Kevin, I called Kevin. I said, Kevin, this was like around
Kevin,
January.
I need your crystal ball.
Yes, right. Tell me what's gonna happen. I said, Kevin, what's up with your boy? I said, he's like a little turtle. He sticks his head out and he puts it back in. I don't know. I think he likes me, and then I think he don't. I don't know. So I think he's friend zoning me. Like, what's up? And he said, well, you got to give him a little time. He's just got out of that relationship and he's still grieving Tracy. And so you just be patient, Iris. Just be patient.
Like, it's been 5 years.
Right. And in the meantime, I'm asking Kevin, but I'm also praying. I'm like, Lord, okay. I don't want to get my feelings and emotions tangled up in this guy if he's just my friend. Mm-hmm. Because again, I had said to the Lord, like he made his vow, I said, listen, okay, it's been at this point, 6 years we had been widowed? It had been like 6 years that I had been widowed. I said, if you're not going to bring him, and he needs to be the person you have for me. I don't want somebody I have to drag or, I want to be chosen. Mm-hmm. If that's not what you have for me, then just teach me how to be by myself. Because again, I'm a connector. I like being with other people. I'm not one of those people, give me my alone time. No. So I prayed and I asked the Lord, I said, when we go on this trip, reveal whether he is my person or whether he is just a friend, a support person. And prior to that, as I was praying for him, because anybody that knows me knows, I will pray for you. I was praying for him. And the Lord, he showed me how he had not fully grieved his wife. Like he had to hide her in that previous relationship. And so I got the idea to get this bracelet for him that had on it, the front had, my heart remembers our love. And on the back side, it had Tracy, Iris Dargan, and then it had their wedding date and her death date. And the Holy Spirit said, don't give it to him until I tell you. So I just held on to it. I got that like in January. And so and I did that because someone had given me a necklace that said the same thing and had Leroy's name on the back. And so that's where I got the idea from. So anyway, fast forward again, March, we're going on this trip. I take the bracelet with me, not knowing whether I'm going to give it to him or not. And so we got to South Padre. He was totally treating me like I was one of his boys. Like he barely helped me with my luggage. He did not open the door for me. And now mind you, I had only seen him maybe twice or three times at that point. We had only seen each other physically 3 times at that point. And I'm like, I know he's a gentleman, but why is he acting like this? So anyway, so he was totally friend zoning me. We went to the grocery store a couple of times. He didn't buy my stuff. I put it on the counter and I went to get something else and I came back. It was just water. And the water was still sitting there. I was like, did you get this? He was like, no. I was like,
it was conviction. Okay. He had a conviction.
I was like,
I made a
no
promise.
misunderstanding.
I picture her struggling through the doors with her luggage, and he's like, you got that?
Right. Exactly. He did help me up the stairs.
Here's your key. Or no, you guys said it's Airbnb, but yeah. Oh my gosh.
No misunderstanding. Friend zone. We're going to keep it there. Mm-hmm. Best friends.
Yeah.
Best friends.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, the weekend went on and we had this. I think that's the next day. We did like a virtual 5K. So we ended up walking the beach and then walking to breakfast. Mm-hmm. And after breakfast, it started raining pretty hard. And there was this 6-lane highway. I think it's 6 or 4 lane. Mm-hmm. And he grabs my hand to run across the street.
Because I didn't want her to get hit. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You
weren't trying to
but I'm not trying to have her get hit.
Like, he grabbed my hand.
He's like, it's going to be hard to get her home.
Right.
I will say, you killed her? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. So I grabbed her hand to run across the street.
So when we get across the street, he does this. Like, he just drops it.
I got shot. I literally got shot And I didn't know what happened when this bolt of energy like just went into my body.
Wow.
And it scared me. So yeah, I dropped it, and I just like, oh, okay. I'm not going to give it any attention. It is what it is. Something, I don't know, static electricity from the floor.
You're using your
I'm
brain.
trying to figure out. Yeah, there was
Trying
a
to make
logical
sense.
reason for it. It wasn't God at all. It was a logical reason, and it is what it is.
Although that little thing inside you was probably like, this don't make sense, but I'm just gonna go with it.
So we got some more snacks. I paid for mine, and she paid for hers, and we went back to the Airbnb and played games and watched movies, talked, whatever. But later on that night while watching TV, we was on a couch. Probably loves a couch a little bigger than what you all, probably a little bigger than what we sitting on, because we could put our feet up on the couch, and our feet touched. And I got shocked again. That was the second one.
Wow.
And then I was like, okay, what is that? That don't make any sense.
That's
Why
God
would I got
slapping
shot
you.
twice?
He's trying to slap you.
Say it again.
Wake up! This is the time. This is the moment.
And I was, can I just jump
Go
in?
ahead, go ahead.
I was just, so in those moments, like when our feet were touching, and granted, I was on my end, he was on his end, and we were just, feet were touching. It just felt like home. It felt like we had been together for years. Like it really did. And then I was like, but God, I'm talking, the whole time, but God, he's friend zoning me. Like this is not.
Yeah.
And so then the next day we went horseback riding and everything. And then after horseback riding, we were pretty tired. And so he said, I'm going to go take a nap. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go in my room and do the same. Well, he went and took a nap. I went and prayed. And I was like, okay, Lord, well, I asked you to reveal whether he was a friend or whether he was my person. Because again, I had started developing feelings for him, and I didn't want them to get too far. And I said, well, I guess he's a friend. It's all indication says he's a friend. And I just heard it so deep in my spirit, give him the bracelet. And I said, okay. So I went outside into the living room, put the bracelet on the table, waited for him to wake up. And when he got up, I said, there's something for you on the table. And he opened it.
It was in a gift bag.
Yeah, it was in a gift bag. And he opened up the container that had the bracelet in it. And he read the front. And then he turned it over and saw Tracy's name. And then he just broke down in tears. He broke down in tears. And finally, when he got himself together, he looked up at me and he said, it's been you all along. And I just said, duh. I said, duh. Been waiting on you to get it.
Wow.
And so then you want to.
That's amazing.
I can't remember what happened after that. I really don't. But the
We
next
just kinda
day, we
talked.
just talked, and
Well, we talked, and one of the things that he said was, you are the only person that I could talk to about Tracy and didn't have to hide her. You are the only person that made me, feel like it was safe and it was okay to still love my wife.
Yeah.
And I was like, absolutely, because you let me do that with Leroy. So, that's not a problem. And then he said to me, I feel like the blind man when Jesus healed him and the scales fell off his eyes. He said, I feel like the blind man, like the scales have been taken off my eyes, and it's been revealed to me that you are the one.
Yeah.
And that next day, on the way to the airport, he said to me, I will marry you today if you will have me.
after telling everybody for 6 years I would never, ever get married again.
Ever.
So the whole world knew that I was never getting married again.
And the day before we left, when we were talking on the phone, packing in our respective places, we were talking about marriage, and he was like, well, I'm not ever getting married. And I was like, well, I want to be chosen. And he said, well, you know what? When we get back from this trip, I'm going to find you a husband.
Yeah.
That's what he told me.
Now that zapping makes sense. That was God resetting your brain. Like, change this. Now I gotta change this. Make some space for this.
Well, it was like that zapping was freeing your heart. They talk about the hardening of a man's heart and suffering through such tragic loss and trying to protect yourself because, like you said, it was unexpected. Yeah. You were not led to believe, but you believed that she's going to be okay. And then life changed immediately.
And I think even the kids saw the deterioration over 2 years. So I think I was the only one shocked when she died.
Yeah.
Everybody else knew she was going to die, but not me.
Yeah.
But God opened that heart again.
Yeah.
And
He lasered off that scar tissue.
yeah, he did. Wow.
So obviously on the way back to the airport, I told her, "Hey, I will marry you today." She was like, "Slow your roll, slow your roll." We still got kids at the home at the time. They were 17, 18, 19, 20. Two were at home and 2 were in college. And so we were like,
March.
she was like, let's the intent was let's let the kids get out of college, get out of high school, at least the other 2. So her son graduated in May, and my daughter was still in high school, and I'm like, I can't wait. I can't wait. And so July 18th, while she was preaching her second sermon at church, I went up on stage at the very end of the service and proposed to her.
Wow.
And then a month
In
later,
front of the whole
in front of the whole
congregation.
church and the videos of people watching. So I called everybody and said, "Hey, I was going to get a special presentation at church, so you all be sure to tune in."
Oh,
They
look
gonna-
at this
they
planning
doing
man.
something. I didn't tell. The only person who knew was my best friend and the pastor because he had to approve me doing this.
Okay.
So I just told everybody to tune in. Now, Kevin, of course, I said, "Kevin, I need you to be there." I couldn't tell him why. I said, "Kevin, there's going to be something special going on with Iris tomorrow."
Oh, I know Kevin was
So-
there. He's like, I did that.
Absolutely.
And it was just wonderful. It
Oh,
really
wow.
was.
So you were completely
I was
surprised.
completely surprised. Completely
Wow.
surprised. I mean, I knew we were going to get married, but I
Right.
didn't know when. I didn't know when he was going to officially ask me, any of that. And oddly enough, my sermon that day was Love Without Fear. And I preached twice that day. The first time, my demonstration was on the right-hand side. And then the second service, it was on the left-hand side. And I was like, why did they switch that? Now they messing me up, messing my flow up or whatever. And I did. I got through it. I preached the second sermon and I was praying. And I opened up my eyes and he was standing next to me. And so I kind of jumped and then looked at him like through my teeth, like, what are you doing up here? What are you doing up here? And then he raised the mic and I'm like, and what are you about to say? I have preached the word and prayed. Like, what are you about to do?
That's crazy. That whole time you're just like, yeah, what?
And then that's when he started talking and then he got on one knee. And I did like the Fred Sanford. I was like, I'm coming, Elizabeth.
Clutching your pearls.
Yes, I was clutching my pearls. And he asked me to marry him live in the service, live streaming on TV in front of everybody. Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Very good. Very perfect.
Yes.
I can't. Yeah. I mean, the second time around, it's already kind of like, we don't got to do all this. We don't need, but for you to surprise her like that, that's like that's her place. That's where she does her thing. And that in front of all the people,
That's her home.
it's very special.
That's home.
It was very nice.
I was
my
honoring
gosh.
God from my perspective. I told him I was giving my life totally over to him, and he gave me this woman of God. I'm like, this is the place.
He always has a better plan
Yeah.
than we can ever imagine.
Yes, he does. Well, I gotta say, we have to do a part 2. So if you guys are, because we only scratched the surface.
Oh, we got married a month later. I think I said that.
August 28th.
August 28th.
Yes.
On the beach where I love my beaches.
Oh, yeah.
Destin, Florida, the best beach in the United States.
How many years has it been now?
3 years.
Okay.
Just me, her, the 4 kids, and our moms. And the
Wow.
pastor from the church in Austin
Yeah.
where I proposed.
No, Kevin?
Kevin was,
so
it was coming out of
Kevin literally bought a ticket to come. And we had to tell him, Kevin, no.
because we were coming out of COVID, remember? And so that was when you had to have a cap of people.
Oh.
I have so many friends and family, and his family is large. Like, how do you cut that off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? How do you cut that off? And so we had to say,
No one.
people can't argue with your mom and your kids, right? So if we cut it off there, so that's what we had to just.
Well, Kevin's getting his props today.
Yes, and he has gotten
And
his
all
props.
along, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, and he's still in Austin.
He's
Yes.
still in Austin.
Okay. Well, we got to remember that. Kevin, if we ever need a job,
Yeah.
Or a spouse. Or a spouse.
what else is in
Be the
Austin?
man. Be the man.
Is he married? Is he
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Judith is
We
his
all
wife.
went to college together.
Okay.
Undergrad at Prairie View and grad school at Michigan State.
So he's just spreading,
So that's how
sharing
he
the
moved,
blessings.
yes.
Yeah, his wife must be amazing.
Her name is Judith.
Yeah.
Judith. They've been married how long?
Oh my God, they got married 2 years after me, so 1992.
Wow, wow.
And we need Kevin and Judith here. They need to come on.
Yeah, they need to spread some of that
And they
fairy
have
dust
a,
of.
they have a daughter and grandchild in LA.
LA.
So if you ever want them on, they can just drive down.
Oh yeah, they got a
Okay.
place to stay.
Absolutely.
Wow,
Absolutely.
that's amazing. Well, I have to say that I've never heard. I mean, you guys. I feel like it's a blessing, and I know Kevin had nothing to do with our meeting, but I feel like it's a blessing that we get to have these conversations with you guys, and we have the same communication about our spouses, but there's something a little extra there that we need to be getting together and having our round tables and having our church, because it is, telling the story to someone else who understands just puts a huge valuable stamp on the growth and the healing process that you had to go through. And for other people to see that and to have something to aspire to one day open their hearts and be ready for love again, and that it is possible, and that you can still have the love for one person and be in love with someone else. And, it's, your heart is big enough, and that's just part of the human, journey that we don't understand sometimes until we go through something pretty horrible like this. But it turned out to be a great thing.
Yeah.
And I believe our people.
God bless you twice.
Yeah.
2 great people.
Very lucky. Very lucky.
Not too many people can say that.
Yeah. And I believe our people have a hand in the people that have been chosen for us.
Totally agree.
Yes.
Totally
Has
agree.
to be that way.
Absolutely. Well, I know Kevin, he got some secret, I don't know, he got, when you say Jesus on the main line.
Right.
Kevin got the hookup.
On the main line.
So he knows what's going on.
Yes.
But I tell you, thank you both for being here with us.
Yeah.
We greatly appreciate this conversation. And I know that there's going to be people out there that's going to appreciate this conversation as well. So
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So you've talked about before how I felt like we've been together. I literally feel like I've been married for 27 years. So I like to add my 24 and 3 because I feel like literally we've been together that long.
Yeah. When it's a match, that's what it feels like. It really does.
So we just pray now, God give us another 50.
That's
Absolutely.
right. That's right. Or just make it so I'm not aware of what's happening. If you go before me, just take my brain out. I don't want to know.
Like, listen, I told him like my grandmother told my granddad. They were married for 63 years. She said, now, if he go and get him a girlfriend then she's just going to have a boyfriend and a girlfriend.
That's right.
So I told him, we riding this till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, you can leave, but I'm not leaving.
Right.
Tell you, I want a notebook scenario. I want to go to sleep. We both go to sleep together holding hands, and that's it.
That's it.
I'll see you in heaven.
That would be great. That would be great.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, thanks for listening. And we just wanted to end this and remind you guys that if you are in the San Diego area
Or North County.
we are hosting an inaugural Juneteenth celebration in San Marcos. And it is put on by us and our partners, Achievement in Motion, a nonprofit out of Oceanside. It will be held at the Cal State San Marcos Student Union. We are hosting it. We are leasing the space from there. So that will be the address. The address is 333 Twin Oaks Valley Road.
333.
Wow. 333. Yeah, that's the whole story.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can check us out and get updates on our Instagram page at Juneteenth San Marcos, or on our website at couplesunfiltered.com/Juneteenth. And it's going to be a very special event. And if you know us at all, you know we don't do unforgettable things.
Absolutely.
So it will be a very unforgettable event. And we look forward to seeing everybody there.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Just a quick reminder, we are not licensed therapists, and everything we discuss here is based purely on our personal opinions and life experiences. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss a future conversation.
This podcast is brought to you in collaboration with A Different Day Radio Productions, a podcast network bringing radio to the modern age. It's recorded at the Film Hub in Vista, California, a creative, collaborative co-working environment. Thank you so much for tuning in.